Good evening, brethren, and thank you for joining me wherever you are this evening. As always, we must invoke the blessing of deity, great supreme architect of the universe. May you be with us. May you open our ears and allow us to hear our deeper connection in our brotherhood, Lord. We're thankful for your guidance. We're thankful for your faith. We're thankful for everything that you can give to us, Lord. It's in your Son's precious and holy name. Amen. So mote it be. So, good evening, brothers. This will be the third episode of the season on Light Upon the Altar. As we keep digging, I hope to get a little bit better at this, and I hope the ones that have been listening have enjoyed what they've heard so far. I'm always open to feedback and whatnot, so feel free to send me a message if you want to hear about something or you want to talk about something more in depth. So, in the first episode, we talk about faith as the foundation of the lodge, the belief that must already exist before a man can begin his Masonic journey. In episode 2, we explored the value of the sacred law, where that faith finds its moral instruction. Today, we turn to one of the most powerful and recognizable concepts in all of Freemasonry, what we most seek, light. Every Mason remembers the moment he first received it, and yet few fully stop to ask what that light truly represents or what it demands of us once we receive it. Tonight, we're going to talk about what Masonic light is, why it must be sought, and why it carries responsibility, not privilege. In Masonry, light is just not physical illumination. It is truth, it is understanding, it is moral awareness. Light is the ability to see oneself honestly, to recognize both potential and imperfection. When Masonry speaks of light, it is speaking of knowledge, which is guided by faith, wisdom, restrained by humility, and truth applied with compassion. Light is not information alone. It is insight with purpose. And importantly, light is never portrayed as something we create. It's something that we receive. And we receive that by order of the worshipful master and the assistant of the brethren. Why must light be sought, one may ask? One of the quiet lessons of Masonry is light is never forced upon a man. It must be requested, it must be earned, and it must be received with humility. That matters because a man who believes he already possesses all light is incapable of learning. Pride closes the door that humility opens. So, one of the first things we say, I have come here to subdue my passions and improve myself in Masonry. Masonry teaches us that growth begins when we admit we do not yet see clearly. The desire for light is not weakness. It is a readiness. And, as we seek our faith and we seek God more, we have to be ready to accept that. We have to, and accept it with humility, not be boastful and prideful. It's just one of those things. And even in Masonry, you earn more and more as you study and begin to understand Masonry and what it can bring for you. Darkness as a teacher is something I want to talk about next. Darkness in Masonry, it's not evil. It is ignorance. It is incompetentness. It is the honest recognition that we do not yet understand. Before light can have meaning, darkness must be acknowledged. A man who has never known darkness cannot appreciate clarity. A man who has never been uncertain cannot value truth. Masonry does not shame a man for standing in darkness. It invites him to step forward, and that invitation is an act of trust. Yet again, a lot of things that you have to do, as you go through the degrees and you go through the chairs, we all are looking forward to being raised to that sublime degree of a Master Mason. But, it takes trust along the way from you into the fraternity. And that's kind of what, you know, stepping into that light does. It's an act of trust. After you invoke the blessing of deity and you move on, and that first step, the first thing you do, you're told to arise and follow your guide and fear no evil. It's the same with our relationship with God, or whatever you do worship in your higher power. That it's only just the beginning, and trust is there. We got to trust that the Lord loves us. At the same time, we got to trust that every man in that room has been exactly where you were on that first day. And it takes a lot of trust. And some of that comes from you already having that faith, and you're able to trust easily. And somebody that just picking you up and bringing you around the room, he's just a mere stranger to you at that point. A friendly fellow who soon you will discover to be your brother. Responsibility of light. Here's the part that often goes unspoken. Light is not a reward, it's a responsibility. Once a Mason receives light, he is accountable for what he knows. He can no longer claim ignorance. He's expected to act differently. Light does not elevate a man above others. It holds him to a higher standard. Truth increases obligation. Understanding depends accountability. A Mason who walks in the light is expected to speak with honesty, just not with a fellow brother Mason, but with all humankind. Act with integrity. What are you doing when nobody's looking? Are you still the same man? Are you still the same person? Are you the same person that swore your obligations on a holy Bible? Do you still hold yourself to that accountability? Do you do that when nobody else is looking? Or did you do it all just for a show? Choose what is right, even when it costs him. Light his expectations. It may cost you things. I haven't lost anything due to Freemasonry, but, there could be a time that if you continue to grow to be a better man and improve yourself, and there may just be some people that get left behind in your life, and that can be a tough thing. But that's a part of that accountability and that growth. As Masons, we want to surround ourselves just not with brethren, but also with good people, and be out there looking for people searching for the same light. Just bring them out of the darkness into the light, into what this great fraternity has to offer us as a brotherhood. The next thing I'd like to talk about, light and moral courage. Masonic light is not passive. It requires courage. It takes courage to admit fault. Admitting when you're wrong sometimes, not the easiest pill to swallow. That's where you got to overcome that pride. Courage also corrects behavior. Maybe you think about it a little bit more before. Maybe you might do something like, I really probably shouldn't be doing that. And if you got to tell yourself that, you definitely probably shouldn't be doing it. It takes courage to stand firm when the compromise is easier. So what do you think about that? Standing firm. I see that as standing firm in my obligation, and standing firm in what you believe in and not compromise because it's easier. One thing, always take an easy route. Really don't teach you anything. That's just my personal opinion. But, I've also taken a lot of turns down the roads of hard knocks. But, standing firm in your faith and what it stands for and means to you, it shouldn't matter what it costs you, just because, we can compromise on this. It's not that thing. It's not that easy. And next is live by principle rather than convenience. I keep saying it, but, do the right thing. Just do the right thing no matter what, no matter who's looking, who's not looking. That's what we're supposed to do as children of God anyways, but as one brother to another, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be living an upstanding life and trying to be better each day. Light reveals not only one path, but the obstacles. Sure, there's going to be obstacles in our way. Sometimes we're our biggest obstacles. And, we are the biggest hurdle that we have to overcome. You know, and sometimes light shows us that we are the obstacle. And, it's so true. And you just got to keep pushing, keep pushing past those, reach out to a fellow brother, like, man, I'm just really struggling with this. And I noticed, you're really good at this. You think you can help me? Or, it takes that type of courage and stuff like that to know when we are weak. Because, at the end of the day, the faith inside that we have may be strong, but the flesh is very weak. Very, very, very weak. That moment when truth confronts ego is where the real growth begins. So when you can sit all those things beside, and a lot of ego comes from prideful things and stuff like that, that's where we really begin to grow as just not Masons, but as men, that we are going to lay aside all these worldly things that can be obstacles, put us in the wrong way and stuff like that, and so on and so forth. Those are the things that we can't help but overcome. But we got to put all that stuff aside, and that's when we can really truly start to grow. And as we all know, as we keep going, continue to seek more light. Masonry does not teach that light is received once and completed. It teaches that light is progressive, every degree, every lesson, every reflection. Each thing, we continue to search for more light as we go through each step. But, the light is progressive. It comes further and further, and the more you seek it, the more you will receive. The more light we receive, the more clearly we see how much remains. And that's where we should just always be improving ourselves to just keep growing, keep going, because a wise Mason never stops seeking light because he knows that growth has no finish line. Let me repeat that again. Because he knows that growth has no finish line. I'm talking to you as Masons, but I hope even if you're not a Mason and you hear this, not only a wise Mason, but a wise person never stops seeking light. You never stop seeking personal growth, and the sky's the limit when you have that type of attitude going into things, when we think that we can't do something, that hinders us. And, you just never, ever, ever, ever stop. Just keep going. Even when you get tired, keep going. Ask for more. Like, God, I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to meet you halfway, but come on, Lord, keep pulling me that way. Because we can never stop growing until we cross the ultimate bridge of life to the pearly gates at the end of this life, because we can never not escape life without laying down our working tools. And that's when the growth has come to full form. And complacency is the enemy of enlightenment. Being complacent on how things have always been, it only dulls the moment. It just, it just stops you in your tracks. Or it's good enough. Just never stop. Just never stop, brothers. Keep pushing. Keep growing. Just not as Masons, but as a husband, as a brother, as a co-worker. The lessons of Masonry, they just don't stay inside those four walls. As I've grown and stuff like that, the light I've received and the brotherly love that I've received within the four walls of Masonry, I go out and spread it. Share it with all mankind. And, I try to tell people all the time, come join me. If you want to know what it's all about, come join me. And I'll show you the way. I'll show you the light that I've received from this great fraternity. Next, and that leads into what I was getting ready to talk about next. Light beyond the lodge. Light is not meant to stay inside the lodge room. It's just like when you're in church, your light just shouldn't shine in that room. It should go out, be shining on others. If it does, it becomes decoration instead of transformation. Now let's really think about what I'm saying there. Becomes a decoration instead of transformation. So when I mean decoration, if we just shine that light inside there, it's just something that we do out of obligation to our fraternity. It's just there. We're not really using it. It's just kind of right there on the shelf. And we just, that true transformation is when we take that light out into the world. It's kind of like even in your Christian life. Until you accept the full greatness of the Lord, you're just kind of like a decoration. You're just there going through the motions. But, after, you're done at church on Sunday by noon or whatever, or, 8, 9 o'clock after your monthly meeting, and, you just go out and it don't mean anything else to you. You haven't truly transformed. It's got to be that, we always talk about religion, but that heart level change is when you really start to see the true growth. Same thing. Masonry transforms our hearts. It makes us want to be better, just not for ourselves, but people within our lives, our families, our co-workers, people that depend on us. So the truest test of Masonic light is seen, and here we go, how we treat our families and how we conduct our business. And that's, personal, professional, and how we respond to anger, injustice, or temptation. And those can be hard. I ain't gonna sit here and lie, sometimes my anger is my biggest obstacle in life. It's one of the things that I have to work on every day and just better myself, because I know it's a weakness of mine. And, I always just seek and stop and think, what would God do? What would he do? And I just ask, like, God, please give me the strength to get over this anger. Even sometimes with an injustice, I felt something was unjust, it leads to some anger. And, those are things that I know I have to work on. And that's what I keep working on every day. That's what I ask God for guidance every day. God, just lead me into a better place. Calm me. Temptation, it's everywhere, right? It is everywhere we look, whether it's committing crime or going, doing unmasonic things, it's just one of those things. It's, how we live when no one else is watching. It all goes back to integrity. We've talked about this. I've talked about this a lot on the show. What are you doing when nobody's watching? What are you doing outside of those four walls when another fellow brother Mason may not see you? Or you know what? Maybe a fellow Mason is seeing you, and he just hasn't said anything yet. So, you just really, guys, when nobody's looking, we still have to be a just and upright man and a Mason. We owe it to ourselves. A Mason carries light on his lapel. I said that wrong. A Mason carries light not on his lapel, but in his conduct. So it's just not something that we can wear. We show through the conduct that we have with our interactions with a fellow brother Mason, our neighbor, our relationship with God, our relationships at work, our relationships with our wives, our children, just all of our family in general. We carry ourselves in a certain manner, and we should always do that when nobody's looking. And that's what really draws us, out to other people. And other people may be like, what's going on over that Masonic lodge? Really notice the change in this man. And maybe I want that too. So just remember too, that somebody's always watching, and they don't have to be a Mason. And our conduct and the way we compose ourselves in public, inside the lodge, it all matters. But mainly and mostly out in the public, because brothers, they're always looking. They always have one reason that, we're wrong and we're bad people. But it could be farther from the truth, because, hey, every brother I've came in contact with has been a great man. Sure, is there a bad apple out there every once in a while? It happens. Just when that happens, we just know that we got to keep guard on the western gate just a little bit closer. And because, they have enough ammunition as it is. So we always must conduct ourselves in the highest reverence, because somebody's always watching. In closing, I want to leave you with this thought. Light is not given to make us feel superior. It is given to make us better. If you feel superior after receiving it, you're not getting the point. The question is how much light you have received, but how faithfully you are living by it. Let me repeat that again. The question is not how much light you have received, but how faithfully you are living by it. So, it's like going to church every Sunday. If you go in there and then you go out and sin the other 6 days of the week, you just don't get it. You're not living out your faith. Same way with our brotherhood. When you can receive all the light you want, but if you don't live out what you're learning and apply it to your life, then it's just kind of a waste. That transformation is not happening. So in our next episode, we'll explore prayer and masonry, why it opened up and closes the lodge, and what it teaches us about humility, dependence, and unity before the great architect. Until then, continue to seek light, walk humbly in it, and let it guide just not your understanding, but your actions. Brothers, I hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as I have bringing it to you. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast thus far. And like I said in the beginning, if you have anything you might want me to talk about, I'd love to research it and talk about it. If it's something you want to get on the show and talk to me about, hey, we'll set up a time. Until next time, brothers, so mote it be.